Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this episode. I'm going to be speaking to the Muslim cowboy. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, man. I'm doing real good.
How's London treating you?
You know, London, I mean, it's all right, but the people here, that's what matters. And I've had, alhamdulillah, the great pleasure of meeting some amazing brothers, and the hospitality that you've shown is nothing short of spectacular.
Jazakallah khair.
Wa yak.
So you were with us in Africa. We're going to
Yesterday.
speak about that. Yeah, we're going to speak about that. That was just a fresh trip that we just came back from. After that, I think you went somewhere else. I wanted to capture those feelings of us being in Africa and what was achieved. But before that, a simple question. And that question is, why is dawah to non-Muslims important to you?
You know, ever since Allah, Rabbul Izzah, guided me home, I have felt it incumbent upon myself that until the end of my life, I have to give back just to show a little bit of gratitude for what Allah has given me. And also, I mean, at the same time as well, what I have found, which is so amazing and so beautiful and so perfect in Islam, why wouldn't I want to share that with other people? Why wouldn't I want the whole world to know this amazing thing that I feel a lot of people take for granted? Not everybody, but so many people who come into this, you see them, unfortunately, don't know why they're fasting. They don't know why they're praying. You know, and traveling a lot, living in many different countries, I ask people why they do the things they do in Islam, and they say, well, my parents do it, you know, and it's the same thing I found Christians doing with their parents, right? Except here, we do have the truth in Islam, but I want people to know why Islam is the truth. And that takes work. It doesn't just magically happen because we feel like it's, you know, feel like it happens or feel like it's good. People need to be on the ground, sharing people, teaching them why Allah is alone worthy of worship. Who is Allah? Who is your creator? And who was his most beloved, the final messenger, Muhammad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi.
Absolutely. And you've put ink to paper. You've written about this. You have your book. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Thanks and praise be to the Lord of all of mankind. First, I want to say that it was because of my parents. I originally wanted to write a letter to them. I wanted to write this letter that was just, had everything laid out. I've given them dawah full on, no holds barred. They've heard the whole message, but I wanted to give them a letter. And then I thought, you know what? My parents saw me as someone who made a lot of mistakes in my life. I did. I mean, as it's well known, and I'm not proud of it, but alhamdulillah, Allah saved me from it. I had a lot of problems with alcohol before Islam, which Allah saved me from. I had a lot of problems with many issues before Islam, and Allah saved me from it. So my parents, in their mind, I was this son, this kid who kept screwing up. And to them, my coming to Islam was another screw up. It was another mistake that I'm making. He'll grow out of it. He'll whatever. And I thought, if there's one thing that I can do that will reach them to where they will have that respect of what I have to say to them, instead of, oh, he's just talking as whatever again, that how could I do that? Where could I come and approach them in a way that will be respected? And I said, well, if I'm a published author, maybe this will be the one thing that they actually listen to. Maybe this will crack the shell for my parents. So they are my original intended audience, both of them, and then my sister, and then everybody after that, general Christian public. So my original desire was this prayer I had to Allah to use my book as a means to get them to finally see the same thing that I saw of the problems in Christianity, and that there is something that is better. And even if you think what you have is good, there's something that's not just a little bit better, but it's so much better that it will completely alter your perception that you have on life, right? Because unlike me, my parents don't have a lot of trouble with the law. They didn't have the alcohol problems. They didn't have any of the problems I had. They have a beautiful marriage. They have a beautiful house, a beautiful life. My dad's got a great career, so well respected. So for him and in their lives, they got, what do they need to change what they're doing from a worldly perspective? So I wanted something that would be able to take them out of that comfort zone, thinking that what you have, maybe there's something that is still missing, right? Maybe there is still a little bit more that you haven't attained yet. And is what you're upon something that you're willing to stand and be punished in eternity for? And do you even know what you have is? So my book is this attempt to take people, and especially my parents, but to take the reader, the seeker, through a journey of what I went through in my own life. Going from what is the true denomination in Christianity, because that's how it started. I wanted to find out, was it the Methodists that were correct, the Catholics that correct, the Lutherans, right, the Orthodox? Who was the right denomination? Which was the right sect in Christianity? And then that led me to becoming a monotheistic Christian for 4 years, and then eventually I became a Muslim. And all of that's outlined in my book.
So the link to the book I'll put in the comments for whoever wants to order it. Make sure you give a 5-star review. It's something we want to promote, inshallah. So you have obviously your story, and in the dawah, everyone uses their personal experience to customize the dawah, to make it more bespoke. So you traveled with us to Malawi, and we were out there in the villages. We were giving dawah in this beautiful country. Firstly, what did you expect when you traveled, and how was it different to what you saw?
Well, I like to do an exercise before I go anywhere where I completely clear away any expectations that I have so that I'm not disappointed, right? And this also helps me to go into any situation not looking down on people and not looking at what they have as inferior. And that's just something I've done a lot for my whole life. So when I went in, I just tried to free my mind of anything that I thought. The only thing that was really different that I guess I never got out of my mind, I thought all of Africa was like, the Sahara. Not just the Saharan desert, but like the savannah. Maybe you might got a few sparse trees with a few lions under it, but I didn't know there was like jungles and waterfalls and, what we saw and experienced in Malawi. So a lot of the geographics was a little bit different. But when I got there, I was not expecting anything in particular, but immediately what hit me first was the size of the smiles. Was the smile size. Was how happy and friendly and open not only the Malawian hosts and workers that were working with AIR, but just in general people were. And despite what they claim, to be, there is big poverty issues there. There is a lot of issues with poverty from a monetary standpoint, but the overall happiness level, I would say, from experience and seeing them was pretty high. And I saw a lot of, really goodness and softness in the people.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way of summarizing it, because that's the same thing that everybody experiences when they go to Africa, especially East Africa. People are very happy, they're content, they have a welcoming nature. They sing for you when you enter, they sing for you when you leave. It's one of those memorable experiences. But also the dawah is very different, because when you're speaking to people, they accept Islam very easily. It's not the case where they get into all sorts of theological debates. It's almost like an extension of something they already believe. They're already on that route.
One thing that the scholars of the Seerah and in general mark about the Sahaba and why this was such a ripe place for Allah to send his final message, right? Allah could have sent it to the Greeks. He could have sent it to the Byzantines. He could have sent his prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to anywhere in the world, but he chose the Arabs, right? And many of them mention that they weren't distracted by a lot of philosophy and a lot of different thoughts and aspects of life that you find in a lot of other cultures, especially like we see in the West, to where they were pure. It doesn't mean they were unintelligent, right? The Sahaba were extremely intelligent, but they didn't have like what I would call the baggage. And so when Islam came to them, it was very close to their fitrah. And even though many of the pagans and the polytheists, didn't accept Islam from the Quraysh until, after the Fath al-Mecca, it was given to a people who didn't have this, a lot of extra, information to process. And, let's get into debates about this. Even those who didn't accept Islam, they still knew that it was the truth because it hit their fitrah.
Yeah.
They recognized that this it makes sense. This Quran that you're talking about, worshiping one God, it all made sense. And so in Malawi and in East Africa and just in general, people seem to be, from what I saw on the ground, closer to that fitrah, and they didn't have a lot of the distractions and the baggage into, oh, well, what about this? And they also didn't have a lot of the niceties in life that you have from people in the West who they have everything and they think, why do I want this? How is this going to help me make more money? I want to get this new car. I want to do all these things. A lot of people, unfortunately, I feel like they get stuck in being too comfortable. And so in Malawi, you have a people who, whenever I asked them, and I thought this was really interesting, I asked some of them, why do you believe in God? Okay, so that was the question. Why do you believe in God? And because, we're there to teach about Islam, right? But I just want to know, why do you believe in Mulungu Mozi, right? The one God, as they said. And they didn't give me an answer, but they replied back with a question. They looked around, and then the translator translated for us. They looked around, they did this, and they said, how can we not believe in God? Right? Because for them, without having these concrete jungles and everything, they're there seeing how Allah growing things, how all of the signs of how miraculous life is, and living in nature as they were. They see it. They get to feel the experience of this is there's no way that any of this happens, any of this exists without a creator. So their answer was like, how could we not believe in a God? And so I feel like people who, they're not lying to themselves, they're an honest people, they're very true and sincere, I found. People like that, it's easy to give the message that already was made for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it also goes a long way in explaining why the numbers are so high in terms of shahadas. Because when you are giving dawah in the West, you're dealing with an individualistic society, a materialistic society, atheistic, secular, agnostic, people who are going to be questioning religion and taking skepticism to the extreme. So the number of shahadas are very low. But when you go to these villages, they have a chief structure, they have people becoming Muslim in large numbers, as we saw hundreds taking shahada. And also, because they are naturally close to their fitrah, they haven't been corrupted by all these outside influences, and then added to it their general demeanor of smiling and welcoming foreigners, it leads to a culture where it's so easy for people to accept Islam. Now, I wanted to ask you about a concern, right? A concern that we as IERA, because our mission is Islam in every house, right?
Absolutely.
We have always had this concern for the new Muslims, because the Shahada numbers, as we know, in Africa now are in the thousands per month. As an outsider, as somebody who joined the team, and inshallah you're going to be with us for a long time, as somebody who joined, what did you expect when it came to the new Muslim program, and what did you see?
So before I came, I looked up and read a little bit about what was posted in the groups, but I didn't really know what was going to happen for the new Muslim program. So personally, I was concerned that there was very little, new Muslim follow-up. I expected maybe you guys, they'll teach them Fatiha, and, they'll maybe give them some prayer rugs and, sit around and just, tell them, go to the mosque, here's the nearest mosque, or whatever the issue was. I didn't really know too much about what y'all did, and I didn't expect much either. And so that's why I was incredibly and ostensibly surprised when I saw the actual work that goes into these communities, enriching these communities after they take the Shahada, and then the follow-up to check up on them. So not only are you guys giving them the proper Islamic education afterwards and a good tarbiyah with people who are dedicated to stay with them, but then you're making sure that, okay, what's the progress we made with these guys? Why are they lagging behind compared to these other tribes? And so you didn't just, think about it a little bit. It wasn't just some whimsical idea that, you kind of just going along, right? There's an actual structure that's well organized and in place to kind of make sure that people don't get left behind. They don't get left out. They don't feel like these guys came in to just get us to say some weird words in some weird Arabic language that we don't really know for the camera, and then they left us, right? And that was something that was really interesting too, because one of the tribes that we went to, one of the people came up afterwards and they said, don't leave us. Yeah. Please don't leave us, right? And I was thinking, do they have experience of people coming and then doing something with them and then they leave? Right? They just wanted to make sure that we were not going to leave them. And IR doesn't do that from what I've experienced. And that was really reassuring, and it made me feel not just happy, but in a proud in a good way. Yeah. Fakhur. Like I was like, man, I'm really glad to be a part of this and what IR is doing on the ground.
Absolutely. And this is why we're asking people to join Destination Dawah. We want to take whoever can to Africa so they can see the work for themselves, because there's no better way of somebody buying into the vision other than to see it in action. So when someone becomes Muslim, we have new Muslim classes, then we have post new Muslim class care, we have new Muslim coordinators who go and check in on those villages, we have new dawah committees from the born Muslims and the reverted Muslims who are there to connect with us. Then we have the chief retreat, then we have the 3-month program with the advanced students that go back to the villages. All of this structure, which a lot of the times you do not get to fully understand in the video. So even in this video, we are talking about the structure, but when you see it in action, it's very different. You remember the chief retreat, for example, right? And we need to obviously focus on the chiefs because this is the sunnah. And strategically, pragmatically, it makes the most sense to focus on the people who are going to have the greatest maximum effect on the people in the villages, which is actually their chiefs. So if the chiefs become Muslim, they're more likely to. What was your experience of the chief retreat?
So, I was curious when y'all mentioned it. Oh, today we're going to go visit the chiefs. I was curious on, okay, what are they doing with these chiefs? But when we arrive, we go in there and we see these different chiefs. And what was interesting, there was female chiefs and male chiefs. But was interesting, they were all from different tribes. And my experience was that they weren't just here to, get together. I mean, this is nice. I mean, I'm sure they do some socializing and whatnot. But I saw an empowerment to the extent that I was confident that whenever these guys, and I didn't know how much longer they had in their chief retreat, how long they had been there, but what I saw at that moment, when I questioned them, and when I saw them talking and answering other questions, I was confident that by the time they go back to their tribes, they're going to be stable and secure enough to weather the storm of trials to come, whether that be other Christian missionaries and groups coming against them, whether they have pushback from tribes people who haven't become Muslim yet. I felt like what you guys were doing in the training of them in the chief retreat and building them up is as community leaders and teaching them how Islam is and how it acts, within different aspects of the social hierarchy, that what these guys were doing was not just going back like they were before. I mean, these now are the next, group of people who under them could potentially become not only a lot more Muslims, but their communities are going to be a lot stronger because of it, right? And because if you don't have really strong leadership in communities, if a few people start leaving Islam, then more people will start following. But when you have strong leadership who is very strong upon Islam and they're properly taught, they're going to be that glue that helps keep the organization of the people together. They're going to be able to say, hey, when these Christians come, look, if you want to give us money, you can, but we're not going to take your religion. We're not going to take whatever you have. Or just, please excuse us, we're fine. And that's one thing that I really wanted to know in the questions that I was asking them on, do you, I wanted to ask them outright, and I did. Like, do you guys really believe in
That's
what
in your vlog.
Yeah. What do you guys really want to even? I mean, do you guys even believe what we're telling you? Do you know what you accepted, or is this just something that was, just another group that came in and you're just going along because you get free food and nice accommodation from the people? And you could see it in their answers and the way they responded. That as the chiefess who had 16 tribes under her, she said, we accepted Islam from the bottom of our hearts, right? That's the first thing. That was her first reply. And then she went on to explain that there's nothing that you can do to take us out of this. Like, Islam this is who we are now.
Yeah.
We are Muslims, right? So, and the Chief Retreat is great for that because it brings them together to where you can train them all simultaneously, teach them the things that they need to know. Yeah. Because the way that it's structured there, you don't put them in the same place with other people. It doesn't make sense. And also, too, they can network. Yeah. When they network now, that can help make other tribes stronger. And they say, okay, well, there's another tribe that hasn't got the message yet. Maybe they can help with us getting into other tribes that we haven't got into yet. And so that network helps to soften things on the ground for more expansion and whatnot, etc.
And if you remember that there was a Christian man who was there whose father was a Muslim chief, and then you pushed the Christian, why are you still a Christian? Why aren't you Muslim? Give us a little bit of insight in what was going on in your mind, and then obviously what happened.
So I like looking at people. I like looking at people, reading their body language. And you don't have to move or adjust because I'm reading your body language too. But I'm just kidding. The tone when we came in was, okay, who are these guys? A lot of us coming in, and especially me coming in the way I am, I felt, okay, there's first an apprehension, okay? And even amongst the chiefs who are now Muslim, after talking to them, they're answering questions, going back down. You see everybody relaxing. And at one point in the talk, one of the chiefs who had converted had his son who was still a Christian there. And I was watching him the whole time because when they asked, are you a Muslim? And he's like, no, he's not. So we continued our questions, and I kept observing him and watching him as we were answering. And so when I was asking those questions to the chiefs, of one of them, the first question I asked is, do you guys really know what you're talking about? Because the Christians will my first question was, Christians give the claim to me on my social media. They say, oh, you guys are only getting shahadas because they don't know what they're actually doing. Yeah. They don't know what they're saying. And then the gentleman, one of the brothers, chiefs, responded that, no, these guys are foolish in their head. They don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know who the Prophet Muhammad is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the second question was directed towards the sister of, what are you guys going to do when Christians come in and they come with their money and they come with other stuff? Are you guys properly prepared to deal with them? And what would you even say in those situations? And that's when the sister, who was a chiefess over 16 tribes, said what she said about, we've accepted Islam from the bottom of our hearts. After she finished speaking, I went and started looking at that kid again. A kid, and I mean, he's probably in his early 20s and whatnot. And his body language completely changed. He completely, I could see that he, listening to their answers, saw how confident they had become to speak about Islam. Because you can be a new Muslim and accept it, right? But maybe when you're pressed by your non-Muslim family, you're hesitant, especially if they bring up issues that might be kind of hard to deal with. Right? And we don't have to get into those, misconceptions or issues, but it might be kind of uncomfortable, or they're like, I don't know, they don't know how to answer some questions, and you might see some of that hesitation and lack of confidence. But the confidence that was exuded by these chiefs was so much that I saw him being affected by, wow, these guys have Like, this is something serious. Like, they're all on the same page. This Islam is something special. So that's why I was like, you know what? I asked the translator, can you ask him, why are you, like, you're not a Muslim, right? No, I'm not. Is there anything holding you back from accepting Islam today? Right? And I wanted to know, like, okay, is there anything that you still want to hold on to what you believe, or is everything that they said you're in agreement with? And, you know, to me, it's one of the straightest questions to the answer, without getting into long conversation and asking this and whatever, do you believe in this? You know, is there anything holding you back from being on the same page as these guys? And he said no. And, you know, the rest is history. So for me, there could also be something really valuable to learn in recognizing how people are affected by attitude, by confidence, body language, and sometimes just asking simple questions, right? And so to me, this was a great example of paying attention to people who sometimes you might not pay attention to, right? Don't discount anyone. And that wasn't the only thing that even happened that day. He wasn't the only one who gave Shahada among the chief's retreat. There was another son of another chief who the whole time, he was the opposite. I saw that guy was relaxing, so I wanted to ask that. Another son, he wasn't brought up the whole time. He wasn't asked anything. He kept getting sadder. And he even started having like tears in his eyes. And I was like, man, his face was sad. He had a frown on his face. So I told one of the guys who was working with us, I said, man, can you go ask him why he's so sad? Like, because I didn't know if he was a Muslim or not. I was like, can you ask him why he's so sad? And so as we broke up, like, and we're finishing and we're about to get up and go, he walked off to go ask the brother. I said, just check on him, make sure he's okay. He checked on the brother and he came back. He said he's sad because he wants to accept Islam and no one has asked him to accept Islam yet. You know, and so sometimes people just, they need to feel like they're cared about. And when you're in Malawi and we're giving this dawah, and I see what IR is doing, not only are we giving the message, but we're making people feel like they're cared about. That's what's great about the aftercare. That's what's great about the time that is spent on the ground with them. That's what's great about the Chief Retreat and all the other programs, is because it's not just coming in and, you know, potentially leaving them feel like they're just a number and they're part of some, you know, checklist to, okay, we got these shahadas, because they might think that if you never show up again. Yeah. But now these people know that we're serious and they are made to feel like family. They actually are internalizing that claim that we make, that this is a real brotherhood. Because I make that claim. Yeah. I need to be able to back it up if I'm a da'i. Yeah. I can't call people to Islam and then after they become Muslim, they're like, what the heck is this brotherhood you talked about? And IRA is walking that walk. They're not just talking the talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a related question is the comment that you got from the missionaries, these guys don't really know what they're getting into. Something that we did touch upon in Africa, and I want you to elaborate on it. I said to you that, Brandon, this is a very derogatory way of thinking about Africans, because when you get these people online who are trying to throw shade on us, they're essentially not realizing the premise is that these Africans are so simple. Just because they're poor, they just accept anything willy-nilly. How do you respond to that type of contention?
Well, first I would want to ask, you know, who are you who's asking this question? Okay, who are these people, these Christians who are online asking these questions? And I find a lot of these claims are coming from Christian missionary, Christian evangelism accounts. And if you're a Christian and you want to evangelize people, you're wanting them to come to what you're upon. Okay, so if I'm going to invite somebody to Islam, I'm talking to you and I want to invite you to my house, I'm not going to put you down or insult you in any way and tell you, hey, fatty, come eat with me at my house. You know, very rarely, I don't know if that's how you banter in the UK, but in the US, them's fighting words, right? You don't insult somebody and then invite them at the same time. And so what in essence they're doing by saying, oh, they're just accepting it because they don't know what they're getting into or they're doing it for the money, you're essentially saying that these people are not intelligent, that they're less than. You're insulting them and their, you know, who they are as a people, thinking that they'll accept anything. So if that's the case, then when you're calling them to Christianity, they would actually be accepting Christianity because they're just as stupid as well, right? So, you know, then at this point, I mean, what are you really doing if they're just, you know, if it's kind of like calling dogs, right? Inviting dogs to Islam and they just come and eat from your hand. You're not really doing much, you know. It doesn't really say much, and it's very hypocritical, and I mean it's kind of ironic. The argument defeats itself.
Yeah, it does. And I just wanted to add, fundamentally, it's a colonial, racist way of looking at Africans. Just because they're poor does not mean that they are unintelligent or they're not introspective. They're very intelligent people. I mean, sometimes the people who are out there in nature probably understand human nature and themselves and the way that they should be living in accordance to their creator better than city dwellers who may have PhDs, and people don't realize this. These people are very intelligent, and in fact they will question and they will challenge too. We saw that ourselves.
We did. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people think that when we give these tribe dawah to the entire tribe, that everybody stands up at the same time, and so everybody's accepting it. Well, it's actually a lot of times it's 80%. 20% of the people still are sitting down.
Even with the chiefs, some chiefs stand, some don't.
Yeah, some of them don't accept it all. So this is not an issue where we just have everybody stand up for the camera photo shoot. Yeah, it's great. It's great for building morale when you do see all that. But it's not like anyone, one, is being forced to do it, and two, everyone's doing it because it's a tribe herd mentality thing. Everybody stands up who truly believes in it, right? If you're standing up, you know that this is a choice that you're making, that this is gonna, you know, have ramifications. It's gonna have consequences. You're not just walking into this new thing that, you know, it's like picking a flavor of ice cream. They understand what it means to accept this, and I saw that even before we came and we explained things. I mean, they're getting people coming to them, telling them, preparing them, making them explain and understand what Islam is, to when we make that final invitation, who is ready to accept this? Do you understand what you're accepting? And they understand what they're accepting, right? And you question them afterwards. And I made sure to question them, to ask them. And everybody that I saw and asked, it was very clear that they understood the message of Islam, which is a simple message anyway. I mean, it's not difficult to worship and know that there's only one God, right? He is alone worthy of worship. He has sent prophets. The final prophet is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. That he has sent books. The one book that we have today to have to follow is the Quran. That we have a hereafter that we are going to, you know, be accounted for. And that God is the decreer and everything. He knows ahead of time, and he has decreed everything, and also the angels as well. And this is easy. It's people understand this. There's no hoops that you have to jump through and backflips to do, and that resonates with people. But it doesn't mean that it's
something they walk into blindly.
Yeah.
It's something they do think about. And the other thing to keep in mind is that we're giving dawah in places where people already are familiar with Islam. They have Muslim relatives, Muslim friends, in some case Muslim ancestors. We go to mixed villages where the Muslims celebrate the Shahadas, the born Muslims, compared to, you know, the people who are accepting Islam. Like you said, some people do not accept Islam. Now, before we get into the large numbers of people becoming Muslim, I want to take you back to a particular issue, which you'll recall an incident where everybody stopped at the side of the road. We got some pineapples and everyone's talking. Some people started giving dawah and Shahada started taking place. And then we got back on the bus, and then I gave a little reminder to the brothers, and I said, brothers, I know this sounds very strange, but I don't want you to be giving dawah in random places. There's a reason why we give dawah in villages, because here in Africa, people are so close to their fitrah, you can literally get a shahada at the side of the road. However, we have to choose the opportunities selectively. There's an opportunity cost of giving dawah at the side of the road compared to giving dawah in the village, because when we give dawah in the village, we can take account of those new Muslims. We know where they are. And in these different areas that we are, if we do drive-by dawah, right, or anything like that, then we are not going to be able to follow up with these new Muslims. What was your initial thoughts when I said this on the bus?
Oh no, I agreed with you completely. I understand how some people might think, oh, you can't discount any chance for dawah, and it doesn't mean you do. But from a logistics point of view and an operational point of view, it makes sense. And you have to, when you're working, right, in any organization, right, and because Muslims need to be organized, just because we're in an organization doesn't mean, that that there's some sort of negativity to it. But we need, as Muslims, to be organized. And when you're doing any type of work for the sake of Allah, we want to maximize its impact. If I'm doing any kind of good deed, and dawah is one of the best of good deeds, you want to maximize its impact, and you want to maximize the quality of that shahada. And if you're going and doing drive-by shahadas where you give people shahadas and you leave them, they don't have anyone to talk to. Maybe they might have a Muslim somewhere, but he doesn't have that much knowledge, and he's giving them the right answers and the wrong answers sometimes, etc., etc. And there's no follow-up, there's no community structure, there's no structure to be built upon. You can be setting people up for failure to where, okay, maybe they didn't have anyone to train them, and so they didn't really practice, and then maybe they'll go back to being Christian again. So the next time when it is time for them to have dawah, their Islam isn't strong, or they don't want to accept it because, like, these guys just left me hanging. You have to be wise in what you're doing. So I had no issue with you saying what you said and the way that IRA does things, because it is about making sure that these people are quality, not quantity. We don't care about numbers just for the sake of numbers. We want people to become Muslim because they truly believe in it, and then we want to keep them Muslim. We want them to die, right? لا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Don't just become Muslim, but don't die. Don't meet Allah except in your state of submission.
Allahu Akbar. Absolutely. And where the opportunity does come about, where you may be, for example, here we're talking about, if you can stop over at the side of the road and spend 3 hours giving dawah at the side of the road, or you can go to a village where you know the chiefs, you know the village, you know the numbers, you know the new Muslims, you have a structure. Obviously, we're saying choose this over that, but don't give up dawah opportunities. I want to take you back to another point where we went to the waterfall for a reminder, and while the reminder was happening, or just thereabout, you were talking to some people who were selling some minerals or some sort of stones. How was that conversation? And I believe that was your first Shahada in Africa.
Yes, that was actually my first one. Yeah, this was the first place, the first mountain hike we had done, and one of the guys was actually selling minerals. Another guy walked up the mountain with us, and he'd been walking from where we were for like 30 minutes. And when he caught up, I saw him walking to come up this way, and I just saw a shirt that he had on that had some Bible verse or some church or Baptist church or something on it, and so I just wanted to make conversation. I didn't even think oh, maybe he's going to become a Muslim. I just wanted to ask, what church you go to. I just wanted to just talk and get to know him yet. So my intention, even when I first started, wasn't like, I'm going to get him to become a Muslim. It wasn't even about conversion and Shahada or anything. I was like, I just want to have a conversation with a Malawi and see what he thinks and what he believes, right? First conversation. And so as I'm asking him questions, I was like, okay, and then I get to the point where I'm asking what he believes about God. And that's where I learned the Mulungu Mozi, right? The term in Malawi and Chichewa, that is for one God. And he was very insistent on, no, God is only one. I was like, okay, by only one, do you mean only one, or do you mean only one but three persons? And this going to, without getting too confusing, right? The whole Trinity spiel. And he seemed kind of like confused. I was like, no. There is only one. What do you mean three? And I was like, so what do you think about Jesus? And he's like, Jesus, I was like, what do you think about him? And he didn't really give me an answer. Even the translator he's like, he didn't know how to answer it. And so I went to, push him on, further believing, is Jesus sent by God, etc. What do you believe about these things? And at the end of the story, his friend, not his friend, but the other guy, had come from selling his crystals and stuff and was listening. And I got to the point where I was like, hey, are you ready to become a Muslim? Like, do you agree with all this stuff? I explained all of the pillars of Iman, everything, and he agreed with it all, but I said, are you willing to become a Muslim? And he said, no, I'm not ready to become a Muslim yet. And his friend, though, was like, I'm ready to become a Muslim. He had just been listening. I wasn't even talking to him the whole time. The other guy was like, no, I'm ready to become a Muslim, you know. And I thought that was amazing, and I was ready to start talking to him. But something came across my head, and I was like, okay, well, what is holding you back? And then he said it's because of pork, right? And we're like, that's it? Like, you know, it's just pork. You know, there's beef is better than pork. Pork doesn't taste that good. Then asked, you know, does, you know, what did, you know, what they always, I love the way that they give dawah, like, you know, what did Jesus do? Like what they asked the, fa-na-na-na, right? This famous song, to follow, to be like Jesus. What does Jesus actually teach and preach? What is the laws that Jesus came with? It's no different than the laws that were given to Moses, that pork is forbidden. And he recognized that. And so it's, you know, after it making sense, I asked him again, and I was like, look, you know, you don't have anything that's holding you back, and you know, you know that pork is haram. Like, let's do this. Your buddy wants to do it as well. And yeah, alhamdulillah, they both became Shahada, and you know, we put that video out as well. And so every conversation is a potential dawah opportunity. And dawah, that the way that I see it, it's a mindset, right? And so
you can switch it on anytime.
Yeah, anywhere you go, you can make any conversation about the weather, about the coffee that you're drinking, anything. You can switch it on and take it and bring it back to Allah. Right? And that's about having your eyes fixed on the prize, which is Allah and His pleasure. And when you have it focused on Him, all things lead to Allah. He is the creator of everything. And so people recognize that, and you can make any opportunity to dawah. Whether they accept it or not, that's none of our business.
Absolutely.
But it really is nice when you go to a place and people are just so connected to their innate nature that they know that, you know, these truths. So that way, when you bring it to them, it's so nice to just see people not being stubborn and hard-headed, and you know, they accept it, you know, so easily. MashaAllah.
So my second last question, as we're coming to a close, is about the second way we give dawah. The first one is when we're out there in the villages for a couple of days calling to Islam. They take Shahada, then we start the new Muslim classes. The secondary mechanism we've applied to increase Shahadas is the dawah during the new Muslim classes. Because what we realized is in the village, everybody is related to each other. So when your relative is sitting in the new Muslim class because they took their Shahada, then their friend or their cousin or their uncle or their auntie will sit there. And they'll sit there sometimes for weeks. So we've come across Christians that have learnt Fatiha, right?
Wow.
We've come across this, right? So you saw this yourself, that people are attending new Muslim classes and then they take the Shahada during the classes. Is this something that you think was, let's just say, would you say that this is the fruits of actually focusing on new Muslims? That when you start focusing on new Muslims, one of the organic things that starts to happen is that their friends and family become Muslim as well?
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's natural that when you give an emphasis to people as people and recognize and make them feel that value, you're going to get barakah from that. And what's beautiful about the tribal system that they have there, and everyone being connected, their family structure being very strong, is that they're going to be curious about what their family members are doing, even if they're not part of it. And so, yeah, and it's open. Anyone can go and they can sit there and listen. And when they sit there and listen, maybe some of the stuff that they were listening to that they weren't paying attention to, maybe now they're paying attention to. Or just maybe over time, you know, sometimes people take a little bit more time to rinse off, you know, some of the false beliefs and the bad baggage that they have left behind, and it takes some time. And so that's what's, I think, really beautiful about spending the amount of time that you guys do on those new Muslims, is because now this leaves open an opportunity for people to just come of their own will and to sit there and, you know, why didn't I accept this before? What took me so long? And you see that, and we saw it on that trip.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so my last question, one of the things that's really powerful about the dawah is when many different dawah organizations and many different dawah personalities and many different dawah processes are cross-pollinated. People come together, they learn from each other, they learn from not only experiences but also about what resources are available. After this experience, you, as in yourself, Brandon, the Muslim cowboy, you have your your long life ahead of you, inshallah. What are you going to do for the next couple of decades from what you've learnt from your experience in Africa?
That's a big question. And you know what they say, everything's bigger in Texas. But, I mean, without a doubt, I'm going to continue to walk this path. I'm going to continue learning. I'm going to continue working with organizations like IARA and others, and I hope that my current plan of starting my own organization comes to fruition, because this is something that is very much needed. We need more organizations out there. I mean, even though there are hundreds, thousands of humanitarian organizations, we still can't feed all the people that are in refugee camps and that are out there. I mean, we can always have more. And dawah, there's definitely a shortage. There is definitely a shortage of du'at out there giving dawah. And I saw this on the ground. We don't have the numbers out there. We don't have this, just not only the people who are going to the countries to do it, but we don't have the people on the ground either. And the best way that I see moving forward, and what I want to focus on for the next couple of decades, is creating and empowering communities in and of themselves, wherever they are, starting with Africa, inshallah, to be able to, like IARA is doing, give dawah amongst themselves, right? I want to create dawah heroes who they can go to any community, take from that community to make from that community a Muslim community, and then make from them their own du'at that they will go on and spread it, so that way, these communities don't have to have outsiders there, indefinitely, right? So I think that what I've seen and what IARA is doing should definitely be replicated. Some of the things that IARA isn't doing should also be added to the table, and we need more people out here doing this. And so I want to not only continue doing this work, but I want to continue creating awareness, telling people about how massive of a shortcoming we have, and to inspire people, and then empower them with the right tools and the right confidence to continue taking this forward. Because even if I wanted to go and give dawah every day for as many hours in the day I can, until the day that I die, there's only so many people, just physically speaking, that I could ever talk to. And so I want to spend my time making the best from amongst men, to create them, to nourish them, to embolden them to become great leaders and great people who they can take that same message on and that same empowerment to then create communities from which those communities can rise up more leaders, more du'at, who then will go on and spread it in their local communities. Because communities need their own people giving them dawah. And that's what I really love about IARA doing. And so, inshallah, until the day I die, until the next several decades, I want to spend and focus my efforts doing this mission of creating the people who are going to be making the greatest impact of putting Islam in every home on the earth, inshallah.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you for that intention and make you, reach your goals much faster than you think you can, because at the end of the day, it's all up here. You have your vision, you have your drive, you have that never say die attitude. And also, one of the things that's so important is to work with urgency, right? Don't become complacent about the resources that we have and the time that we have and the health that we have and these types of things. So Jazakallah khair.
Right.
I'd love to have you back in the future when you've come back from other dawah missions. In fact, we have another dawah mission planned in July. Inshallah, we can come back after that. Any parting message you want to give to the audience as we end this podcast?
I want people to recognize that despite what you might think about yourself, you are capable of doing something more. It doesn't mean get out of your lane and think that now you have to run the show. No, we don't need more people running the show, but we need more people spreading this message. So if your only job is to share the videos that IARA did in Destination Dawah and other Dawah organizations are doing, I'm not just here to speak for IARA. I'm here to speak for Allah and His deen that He has saved me with, just as I started this podcast with. If that's all you can do is to share work that others are doing, then so be it. But if you can do more, if you have coworkers that are non-Muslim and you can have an open conversation with goodness and gentleness and to teach them about something that you felt before you didn't have the confidence to do it, you can become confident. You can speak to people in ways that you never thought you could before. It just takes that sense of urgency, that sense of, look, you don't want to be of those people. And this is something that I mentioned that when we were in Malawi, and it hit me like a freaking, tidal wave. And it was kind of like, it made me really grateful, but also kind of scary, like that I don't want to stop. What I saw when you watch these people coming to Islam, not just in waves, but in waves and understanding it and becoming strong Muslims who, after a month, they have Fatiha, they know so much about the deen. I was like, this is similar to the gold rush, right? In California, the people who missed that gold rush were so regretful. Like the ones who just after it ended, when any boom in any market happens, the people who came after, who were late, the people who missed the migration after Fath Mecca, they were so regretful that they missed it. And they were told, like, your reward is nothing compared to those who made migration before Fath Mecca. And people, they were just devastated out of regret, like, oh my gosh, we missed something so great. So my last message is, right now is a time like never before where Islam is, yes, we have a lot of negative press, but Islam is being talked about. Islam is accessible, and there are means by which we can take Islam to parts of the world that was never able to be reached before, and you can be a part of that. So don't miss this opportunity to get that ajr that Allah has placed out before you, because if you're not used, Allah will replace you and He will use someone in your stead. And you don't want to be those people who are replaced by Allah. Because what He says in the Quran is He will replace you with the people who love Him and He loves them, right? Allah. And so may Allah make us of those people whom He loves and they love Him and they're doing this work, right? And one thing that's really interesting too, that I really want to make a point of, and this is what I loved about ayah, and I could have ended it there. But in that same ayah, where Allah talks about who are these mu'mineen that He is replacing, those who aren't doing their job, who are leaving their obligations and their responsibilities. Who are they? He defines them by some characteristics. But what's really interesting is that they are أَظِلَّةٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. They're very humble and easygoing with other believers, right? They're not really nice. I mean, it doesn't mean by any means that you should be harsh or mean or insulting or harming unjustly non-Muslims. But they are stern and that they are honorable, and they keep non-Muslims at a hand's length, but they're soft with the Muslims. And they don't fear the blame of the blamer. And so I want us to recognize that in dawah and in life, we have people that we might disagree with on some things. We see this, that we disagree. But when you're calling to Allah, Allah doesn't say, Ud'u ila sabili ta'atik, or He doesn't say, Ud'u ila sabili firqatik, right? He says, Ud'u ila sabili rabbuk, right? Call to the way of your Lord. With what? With hikmah wa maw'idatul hasana, with wisdom and a good calling. And so that quality of the believers is that we are innamal mu'minuna ikhwa. We are brothers, and we need to act like brothers. And if you're constantly fighting and you're constantly giving each other within normative Islam a hard time, then we're not going to get anything accomplished. And that's what we've seen. So much stuff doesn't get accomplished.
Islamic history is full of it.
And when I traveled and I saw the ability for brothers to work together, even despite some differences, that really inspired me. And I think we should really push this as well, to kind of highlight that. And I don't think that's highlighted enough, because any good mission can really be undone by people dividing.
Absolutely.
Right? And it has destroyed armies in the past. And we were talking about this, like a lot of losses of Muslims in throughout our history has become part or main part due to our divisions.
Absolutely.
So focus on what's most important, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, I say this a lot on my channel, like I hope to see all of my brothers and sisters in Jannah. You're all invited to a barbecue at my place if we make it, inshallah. But really, like, I don't want to have anything in my heart towards any Muslim brother or sister, despite our agreements. And let's focus on what's really important. And I like how IRA does that. So Jazakallah khair. And if you brothers and sisters want to sign up, please do go to IRA. You can go sign up for the next destination dawah. You know, inshallah, you have to apply. But if you're really cut out for it, and it's not easy, you know, not everyone is made for it. But it's if you do, and Allah calls you, because it's a calling from Allah, then it's one of the best experiences that you can ever have in your entire life, and there's nothing else like it.
Absolutely. On that insightful note, we will end. Jazakallah khair for giving us your thoughts. Jazakallah khair for watching. Please like, share, comment, tell your friends and family about it, and check out the book in the comment section, How the Bible Led Me Home.
How the Bible Led Me Home. That's
the book. And make sure you give a 5-star review. In fact, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to be the first one to do that as well. Jazakallah khair for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.